Joining us now is Shakeena Melbourne, the principal attorney at Upton Law, PLLC. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Shakeena, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, excited to have you on the program with us as well. You have an extensive background in law. You're the board director of Moving Legacies, a nonprofit, the founder of Veterans for Me, another nonprofit. You're the board director of Filthy Cares, which is ran by a multi-time Megacast guest, Filthy Rockwell, and we really adore his organization, and a board member as well of the Center for Success. You have an extensive background, you do a lot in the community, and you're the principal attorney as well at the Upton Law firm. Let's begin with your law career. Tell us about your journey to become an attorney. What inspired you to go down this road and go into this particular career path?
It's an interesting story, believe it or not. My mom has a story where she tells that I was around 3 years old and I had this little small desk in my room. And the Barbie and the Teddy were fighting with each other, and I was the judge in the middle of the case, fighting over who would get the candy. And so that's how the journey started with the law. There's no one in my family that have any legal background, so I don't actually know exactly where this thought process came from, but I took the journey and I kept going with it. In second grade, I had a teacher ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I told her, I want to be a judge. And she said, a judge? I said, yes. So we sat down and we wrote out a plan of all the schooling required to become a judge. And so I followed that journey the entire time, and here I am practicing with my own law firm.
We're joined by Shakeena Melbourne, the principal attorney at Upton Law, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And so you particularly focus in a couple of different areas. Your primary focus areas are in bankruptcy law and expungement as well. Can you tell us how you came along to those two specific subsects of law being your primary areas of focus and passion?
Yeah, so outside of my Juris Doctorate, which is your law degree, I also have what's called an LLM, which is a Master's of Law in Corporate and Finance. Right after I finished law school, about a year or two later, I joined a law firm where they specialized in bankruptcy, but they specialized with companies when an individual filed bankruptcy. Being that I had that type of background, it worked out great that I was able to help these companies in the bankruptcy area. However, when I started my own firm, I realized I was able to have some skill sets that I could help individuals when they were filing bankruptcy. And so I work with Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, which is a consumers when the individual or a small business file bankruptcy. And then as for expungements, one of the things I learned is when I help small business owners discover some of them have past criminal backgrounds that might be hindering them from getting business credit. And so that's what expungements came a big part of the firm, because then we were able to get rid of past criminal records that were hindering small business owners.
We're joined by Shakeena Melbourne, the principal attorney at Upton Law, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And there's a lot of information out there about bankruptcy. There's been a lot more discussion about bankruptcy as an option for some people, as a potential major negative for people's financial future, for their credit scores, given that we're starting to come out of the thick of things in the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of those bills that were maybe suspended during the pandemic or were relieved and given some sort of clemency during the pandemic are starting to come due, and in some cases quite aggressively. So what are some myths or some misnomers about bankruptcy that are common out in the community, common out in discussions, that people should be aware of as being potentially risky for them if they're considering bankruptcy, or let's just clear them up so that they know the correct information as they're considering bankruptcy, and certainly if they're considering executing a bankruptcy themselves?
So you asked a 2-3-part question. As an attorney, I have to break this down. But a lot of things. So I even wrote a book about the benefits of bankruptcy. I think that people have been told, people meaning society, media, has been told that bankruptcy has been this negative thing or that you are a failure. And I don't believe that to be true at all. Being on the side of the companies and then now being on the side of helping individuals, there's way more benefits to bankruptcy than people understand. One of the things you brought up was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, most of 2020 into 2021, many companies could not collect on any debts. That includes mortgages, car notes. The repossession companies were out of commission. I wouldn't say out of business, but out of commission during the pandemic. Well, in the state of Michigan, particularly, there's a law that says a creditor has up to 10 years to collect on a debt, which means that debt may no longer be on your credit report. However, that creditor has the ability to still try to attempt to collect that debt up to 10 years. Many companies, the 10-year marker for many companies was during a pandemic. Because that pause took place, creditors are now aggressively going after debts that are close to the 10-year marker now. So you'll see a lot of individuals are now being sued from collection agencies, credit card companies, personal loans, unsecured loans, and that's affecting them because tax returns have been garnished at this point, or in the process of being garnished because of those past debts. You have paychecks being garnished, or you are now getting letters from a lawsuit that is pending. Bankruptcy helps with all three of those. Bankruptcy helps with stopping a repossession. Bankruptcy helps with stopping a foreclosure, a forfeiture on property taxes. Bankruptcy can even help you get your driver's license back if your license was suspended for a significant amount of parking tickets or moving violations. These are all things that we're seeing now coming out of the pandemic that are affecting people today. Right? And so,
please continue.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. And so those are things where it's like, okay, it's best to at least talk to or do a consultation with a bankruptcy attorney, because bankruptcy is also a formula. Everyone does not qualify for bankruptcy. And some people have filed. You've ever heard those stories where, oh, that one person filed bankruptcy and they lost their house, their car, and everything? That's probably because they didn't actually meet the requirements for the formula for bankruptcy. As long as you meet the formula, you have a 98 to 99% chance of actually getting that bankruptcy from start to finish completed and reaping the benefits of the bankruptcy.
So when people are considering bankruptcy, should that be considered a last resort, or should that be considered one of those midway tools to try to resolve your debts, clear up your financial situation, and ultimately put you in a position that can provide you that relief, maybe not immediately, but months or years down the road, and eventually get you back to a point where you have control of your financial future?
Now, that's a really good question. And so I have to give you the lawyer answer. It depends, right? The best way to do it is finding enough information so that you can make the best final decision for you and your family. Sometimes that could be at the beginning. Hey, I have so much debt that coming out of the pandemic, I was sick, my hours changed at work significantly, and now I'm 6 months behind with my bills. That might be something you want to look at the beginning. If you're at the middle where you were able to juggle a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but now you're like, okay, I've juggled so long that I'm at a point of discomfort. Maybe that's the time to look at it. It doesn't have to be a last resort, but many people do. They've tried payment plans. They've tried to set up all these things to try to help. And you're at the point where, okay, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I just can't do this anymore. Then bankruptcy is something you should also look into. But I'm in the business of education more than anything else. And so it's more important for me to tell an individual that calls a consultation, because we do consultations for free. Let's sit down and talk about it. Let's make sure the information you saw online, the information you talk to your peers about, is actually the information that relates to you personally, because bankruptcy is a one-on-one, person-to-person or case-to-case basis. And let's see if it works for you. If it does not, we also work with other companies that may help with credit management or educating you on credit, on how to get you back in the position that you need to be to help yourself or your family.
We're joined by Shakeena Melbourne. She is the principal attorney at Upton Law Firm, PLLC, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. One of your other areas of expertise is expungement. And first of all, for those that may not be familiar with this legal concept, what is expungement and who qualifies?
So I like to describe expungement. The simplest way is getting rid of something, right? Waiving something. And that's what the word expunge, get rid of, means. So what you're doing is getting rid of criminal records that took place anywhere between 3, 5, or more than 7 years old. In April of 2021, Governor Whitmer came out with a new law that changed the process of expungements. Prior to April of 2021, you can only have one felony and no more than 2 misdemeanors in order to get rid of that felony, for example. Based on the new law from Governor Whitmore, you can now have up to 3 felonies and an unlimited amount of misdemeanors. Well, what does that mean? In the state of Michigan, a misdemeanor can be as simple as a traffic offense. If you are driving on an unsuspended license, or if you're driving and the vehicle is uninsured, those can end up being considered misdemeanors on your record as a criminal record, right? And so many people here, believe it or not, may have more traffic offenses as misdemeanors than felonies. They were unable to then expunge a felony that they had from 10 years ago because they had 3 traffic offenses. Well, under the new law, you can have an unlimited amount of misdemeanors and still be able to get rid of up to 3 felonies at a time. In addition to that, the new law says if you were charged and or convicted with multiple criminal charges on the same day, so let's say you were driving the vehicle, you got convicted of having a CCW issue, meaning you had a concealed weapon and you probably didn't have your CPL. You had drugs in your vehicle and you were driving on a suspended license. Under the new law, we can file one expungement application and attempt to get rid of all 3 felonies on one day using one application under this new law, which then allows you to have up to 6 felonies and still be able to get rid of them because you were able to use one application to get rid of several. And what I'm learning is that this is helping a lot of Michiganders. This is expected to help up to at least 1 million or more Michiganders be able to get those promotions at jobs, be able to get through those background checks, be able to get these federal contracts or state contracts in construction jobs. And it works.
We're joined by Shakeena Melbourne, the principal attorney at Upton Law Firm, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. And so for those that are up for expungement or qualify for expungement, what are those steps that they should be taking as soon as possible or as soon as they qualify in order to then go through the process? And then on top of that, just a secondary question to piggyback off of that, how long generally, and I'm sure it depends person to person, is the process of filing for an expungement, going through that process, and then ultimately on the positive end, having whatever charges may be on your record that are qualifying for expungement be expunged?
Okay. So the first step in any expungement process is being able to pull your record. Some people know where they were last convicted, and so they will know which city or state that was in. Not state because it's Michigan, but the city, right? For those who do not know, the Michigan State Police has a website called iChat where you pull your electronic criminal record so that you can see what's on it, what you were convicted of, and then are you eligible? The laws are based on what is the last thing that happened in your case. So that's where the time frame is. So for example, if let's say we're expunging a misdemeanor, and that misdemeanor must be at least 3 years old. It's not 3 years old from the date of your conviction. It's 3 years old from the last thing that happened in your case. So if you were on probation, for example, that clock starts the last day of your probation. That makes sense. And so that's the same thing for any felonies. Once we make sure you're eligible, the next step is actually just filing documents with the court, as well as the Michigan State Police, the Attorney General's office, and the prosecuting office of that county where you were convicted. Today, so pre-COVID, from start to finish, an expungement would be 30, no more than 60 days long. Post-COVID, many courts still not open to the public. We're still trying to sort through this process. It might take up to 6 months. And that's just because of each agency has to send reports to the judge, and the judge has to be able to review all of the reports to make sure the individual that's applying qualifies.
We're joined by Shakeena Melbourne, the principal attorney at Upton Law Firm, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. You work in a number of different areas. You are a multi-talented person. You're also an author. Can you tell us about some of the books that you have written, where people can find them if they'd like to read some of your material?
Yeah, so I've written 3 books so far. The first one is an I am book. I was struggling with who I am and who do I believe I am. So I thought I would share that with other people. It's just a poem, a poetry book, and it can be found on Amazon. And it's just a digital Amazon and Apple Books, iBooks. And the other 2 books are on bankruptcy. So the first one is about the benefits of filing bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, but understanding the mental process and the emotional process of filing bankruptcy and understanding the benefits of it. The second book is specifically tailored to Chapter 7 bankruptcy and the benefits of filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Both books can be found on pretty much any digital platform. They're also available in paper copy. So that can mean Barnes and Nobles, that's Amazon, that's Apple Books, you can find the link even on the firm's website for all 3 of the books.
Another element of the work that you do, the benefit of the community, is you do a lot of work with nonprofits. I want to give you a moment to talk about one in particular that you work with. You're the board of directors of Moving Legacies, a nonprofit. Can you tell us about that nonprofit and how you got involved with Moving Legacies?
Yeah, so Moving Legacies is actually a nonprofit my brother and I came up with. So my brother is a military veteran and he came home. He's 100% disabled. And one of the things we discovered that helped him in his recovery process after coming home was helping other people. So Moving Legacy was built on the concept of helping single mothers and children in different ways that they may need help. We've done a couple of back to school events, and we actually partner with the Center for Success, which is a nonprofit in the city of Detroit that helps children or students between the 2nd and 5th grade on learning and literacy. And so we work together to do things or activities, summer programs, where we will introduce the students with different business ideas or concepts that help them to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, in addition to back to school events.
Shakeena, before we let you go, where can people find more information about you, about your law firm, your social media, and get in contact with you or with your law firm if they should need some help or some consultation?
Yeah, so you can go to the website. It's www.uptonlaw.com. That's UPTON. I like to say that because people say Uptown, like the song with Bruno Mars. No, Upton. UPTON. LAWPLLC.com. As well as social media handles are the same. It's Upton Law PLLC.
Shakeena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well. We've been joined by Shakeena Melbourne, principal attorney at Upton Law Firm, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast.